Hey, we're back at the Candidate Buzz. My in-studio guest, of course, Dr. Ron McNinch, and as we ready ourselves as the people of Guam get ready for their favorite pastime, of course, Super Tuesday. Dr. McNinch, you guys were criticized in regards to supposedly giving a heads up to both gubernatorial teams and sending out sample questions. How do you guys respond to that?
I think that in general, there's few things that, and I gotta be very blunt with the public. There's hardly anything we can do in my division, which is Public Administration and Legal Studies. There's hardly anything we do that gets discussed in public that we don't get criticism for. That's part of democracy, and that's fine. And we're used to it, and it's part of the learning experience that we get positive and negative feedback from people on things that we do, and take the feedback and you consider it and you move on.
And I guess by the name itself, you're publicly administrating.
Yeah, that's right. And there's nothing wrong with people raising questions. There's nothing wrong with people giving us other advice. There's nothing wrong with people saying, and we're ready for this, people say all the time, I don't believe your polls. Well, they're not my polls. They're part of the class project, and we say what we say, and you move on.
Well, in essence, I mean, some of your students that come out and already say, well, this is what we do. We give them a feel of what we're going to be asking. I mean, I do that all the time. Well, not all the time. I used to when I was asked to speak, when I was senator and asked to speak at certain venues. As well, who am I speaking to? What do you want me to concentrate on? Do you want me just to speak? So you have to know your audience. And you get a broad a view of that. I mean, this is nothing compared to presidential debates. I mean, all these things that you have to adhere to. Even gubernatorial in some states where even a fan was a major issue.
Sure.
So,
well, I'll tell you, I've been to this is nearly my 20th year here on Guam doing this. I've been to scores of debates and scores of question and answers, and they generally fit into 6 categories, and that's about it. And they're all variations on those 6 categories. And so, and the 6 categories are health, education, social services, health, education, social services, infrastructure, assorted political issues. And they all kind of sort of fit into those boundaries. And like the medical society debate, of course, they only focus in on medical and things like that. But in general, most of these debates are thematic, meaning like a medical society or students for a certain thing do it. And then there's the great debate, which we try to give everyone a final idea of what the candidates are like. And actually, it's for a lot of folks, the great debate will be the first real handshake they'll see of the candidates, because it's right before the election, and it's well it's looked at, it's well publicized by KUM and
we'll
your
be there
station
evening,
and everything else. Absolutely. But in general, I'll tell you, the great debates are a great learning experience for our students, but also it's a way for us to understand the candidates better, policy better. If you look at how people act in the great debate, and if they win, then you look at how they acted while they're in office and see how it compares. It's quite a lot of fun to do.
Now let me ask, any recent polls?
Sure, we have lots of polls.
Okay, power polls?
We have polls on everything.
Okay.
And in general, this is going to be a fun, close election. Of course, the AG's race, I think, is virtually over. I mean, and that's a nonpartisan race, and so I'm pretty open about that.
Okay.
Elizabeth Barrett Anderson has done a good job. She's been very assertive. She's a great candidate. Lenny Rapadas is the sitting AG. It's really tough to be sitting AG and be a politician at the same time. Understood. But that race is pretty much wrapped, and most people would agree with that. Very interesting dynamics going on in the delegates race. Lots of give and take. We have a debate tonight for both the AG's race and for the Congress position at UOG. That's coordinated by Professor Therese Terlaje. It'll be a wonderful event. And then on the legislative side, all kinds of interesting dynamics. The Democrats have a bit of an advantage. They have more depth, they have more incumbents, they have more long-standing members of the legislature. Part of that's because the Republicans have dominated the Adelup for so long. Now
Sure.
it's 12th year, long time. They've dominated it. And so now the Democrats have a lot of depth and they have a lot of electability. There's some very good Republicans that are running too. In my article on Monday for Marist Variety, I forgot to mention Mary Torres is also a viable candidate. And that was a little error I made. I called in my article and it was just a slip. But so there's going to be some very interesting races and sub-races within the legislature. All else equal, I think it's 8 or 9 Democrat majority legislature. I think that quite a number of the incumbents will be elected or reelected.
So do you think, again, at the expense of maybe a couple incumbents, newcomers?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think in terms of pure replacement, I think Blas and Espaldon will replace Lim Tiaco and former the late speaker Ben Pangilinan. Fairly easy substitution replacement.
Sure.
And then there's probably a little bit more wiggle room for 2 to 4 other incumbents that may fall, or go up or down. And so there's that kind of angle. It's really tough to get into a legislature that's so dominated by long-standing people who've been in the legislature for such a long time. But that's normal. On the governor's side, it's going to be a very interesting race for governor. And the thing I always say is you never take anything for granted, and you run. And the classic saw is you run unopposed or you run scared. And so if you want your candidate to get elected for governor, you have to vote for your candidate, even if you think absolutely positively they've already won it. Okay, you have to vote for them because in general the limit is 60-40. The traditional percentage is about 55% is how many points the winner gets. The last 2 elections were within a point. So the last election, 2006, was about 51%, and then the one in 2010 was 50.6%. Very small margins. And so if that trend continues in these elections, they're going to get closer and closer and closer, or they could wobble way out and be a heavy margin one side or the other. But the key is, if you want your candidate to get elected, you got to vote for them regardless, and that's the reality.
Well, I guess the same token is if you want your candidate to win, you got to get out and vote. If you don't want the other candidate to win, you got to get out and vote.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, real quick, because we don't have that much time left. Proposal 14A.
Oh, it's done.
I mean, you're calling this like you're calling the AG's race? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason is, and let's be clear, I think it's done. I think all the data shows it's done. The difference is it's medical. Medical marijuana is okay with people. People don't like, recreational marijuana. Different subject, different day. But purely medical, compassionate marijuana for really sick people. My own opinion, if somebody's sick, especially if they have a serious illness, give them whatever they need to make them feel better. Then once people realize that that's what the issue is.
And we do that now as well. I mean, to our loved ones. I mean, whatever it is that you can, that we can do. I mean, what can I help? What can I do? Let me know. I mean, Dr. Shea came in here a few months back, and they're opposed to it, but he told Keen and I in here. He said when his mom was on her deathbed, he personally asked her, "Do you want to try medicinal marijuana?" And it was her choice not to do it because she still wanted to have her thoughts and all that. But I guess if you've tried everything and you've raised your arms,